This is an avocado, and this is a podcast. That makes this an avocado podcast.
You are now listening to The Young Good, a podcast for the goods. Hello and welcome to The Young Good. My name is Rodney, and this is the penultimate episode of the season. Penultimate is a fancy way of saying second to last, in case you're wondering. The season ends next week. God damn. The episodes have just kept coming and coming with no end in sight, huh? Well, the end is near, thank God. In the meantime, let's wrap up International Women's Month in style. If you've been following the podcast this month, you would know that I've been tapping into my feminine side, creating content catering to women, finessing the finer details of femininity across a variety of avenues. Let's recap. March started with Chaos vs. Order, an episode exploring why men and women don't get along, followed by The Athena Woman, which did supreme numbers, by the way. The concept struck such a chord with the women them. I'm so proud of that one. Then it was followed by How to Respond to a Sexual Harassment Allegation. Now that one was deep. It got the people going. Then came An Ode to Older Women, which was my middle finger to the idea that turning 30 marks the beginning of the decline in women. And now, we're here. Remember how I said in the last episode that age 30 and above is the age when a woman becomes a woman. And everything before that is what they call pre-woman. I've often wondered what the transition must be like for a woman in definite terms. I'm a man, so I have no way of knowing. But God, I'm curious. And I learned that every woman arrives at her growth moment in unpredictable ways. Some find it through traumatic events like loveless marriages and abusive relationships. Some find it in movies, in friends, in that amazing boyfriend who left a positive mark. Some find it in happy accidents like going to a party and smoking some weed. Oddly specific, innit? Some find it early, some find it late. And some, unfortunately, never do. Some stay asleep indefinitely. They never put themselves in situations that force them to snap out of it. But all of this is nothing new. I didn't learn anything I didn't already know. In fact, all the above could be said for a man as well. Human beings in general experience growth in largely the same unpredictable ways. There's that moment where everything shifts that every human being can relate to. What I wanted to know is how women specifically experienced it. I wanted details. I wanted to see something. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that I searched and I found. Or rather, shall I say, it found me. This episode is about the true story of the day a young woman found the spark that would change everything, and how she went through the motions. It begins with an intimate conversation I had with a close personal friend in December last year. Her name is Vanessa. This is not an alias. That's her actual name. This is a real person. This is a true story, people. And by the time we get to the details that apply to her, she will literally lose her breath because she has no idea that her story inspired an episode of my podcast. She'll be alright. She's a friend. She'll understand. Hey, Vanessa. Call me when you hear this, okay? Okay. Anyway, she's 26, 27 years old, living and working in the UK, and she's at that stage in her life where she's in between womanhood. She's beginning to find herself, a sort of existential limbo. This story is about that exact moment Vanessa entered this limbo. The exact moment she turned her back on her naive ways and began to ascend. It all started the day she accepted an invitation to a party in her city of London, sometime in June, July, in the middle of the panoramic. Vanessa is a loner, first of all. Let me just paint that scene. Vanessa is a supreme loner. Her friendship circle is... I'm not even sure she can count her real friends on one hand. It's work and home for her on most days. But after nearly losing her mind being stuck at home for months during the Panasonic, she decided to attend this party in London, of all places where COVID-19 was having a party of its own. She'd been indoors so long that even her lunar vibes were like, nah fam, we're going outside. If we die, we die. And it turns out that in fact, she did die. Just not in the physical sense. Stay with me. Shit's about to get deep. During our phone call, Vanessa gave me the full gist about how she went to this party where she'd met Nigerians from social backgrounds she'd never socialized with before. Nobody knew her at this party, and she knew no one except for the person who'd invited her. She is, or shall I say she was, a bit of a snob. No. She comes off as a snob rather. Wait, how can I put this in a very succinct way? Okay, Vanessa is one of those beautiful babes who comes off as unapproachable, so it's easy to think that she's a snob, but she's really not. Vanessa, please don't kill me. Vanessa doesn't talk much, so she had some marijuana to loosen up and socialize with these people, these strange alien souls that were so far out of her social circles. Not that she had much of a social circle anyway, but... So it was in conversing with these strangers that she realized how asleep she'd been her entire life. She described it as living in a bubble, living life with her eyes closed. She had been totally oblivious to the lives and experiences of others, so caught up in her own problems and dreams. Problems she now realized were more like minor inconveniences, and dreams she now realized were very limited. She gained perspective. It was the first time she realized how much she didn't know about life, about people, about herself, and it stunned her. Vanessa died that night. You know that feeling where your entire worldview is shaken to the core? When truth is revealed to you and chaos rushes into your life, overwhelming you, flooding you? Everything you thought you knew about yourself, every belief you ever had is suddenly up for questioning. She spent months reflecting on her life and the conversations of that night before she reached out to me to share her findings. I'll never forget, I remember receiving a weird WhatsApp message from her in the middle of a workday, asking if I thought she was uptight. See me see wahala. C-jam question. Out of nowhere. It was the most random thing. I didn't get it at the time, but it turned out she'd been getting a lot of feedback from her friends and people in her life about her perceived snobbish nature. You'll need to understand, Vanessa is the sweetest person once you get to know her. But that's the thing. Most people are decent once you get to know them. But the thing is that people hardly ever get the chance to know that you are decent because you're unapproachable in the first place. So Vanessa was in her feelings, learning all this new information about herself, and it so tormented her that she had to call me to help her unpack. I'm like her spiritual advisor sometimes. Call me young God Yoda or something, I don't know. She said to me over the phone,
Rodney, I realized that I'm a mediocre bitch with so much potential that I can't seem to tap into. I'm living an average life when there's nothing average about me.
These are her own fucking words. Word for fucking word.
I feel like I have underachieved. I feel like everything, my goals and my dreams are inside, but I can't seem to get a hold of them. It's always been a step away. I'm smart, but I always take the easy way.
See, when they say the truth is bitter.
Living in London, I always felt poor compared to the life I wanted to live, but I realized that there are people living way worse.
Perspective, gratitude, compassion. You love to see it. Vanessa came to understand that her parents pampering her contributed to her weakness. She's the last born in her family, so everyone did things for her, as per baby girl. Living in London for 2 years was the first time she had to do stuff for herself, and even still, her parents always came through. She realized that all of this has made her too relaxed, blind, and weak-minded. She said,
I run from hard things and I always have. That is what has given me this basic ass life.
basically, she hated that she's always been running away from the hard things. And the hard things are really where growth can be found. Here's a piece of advice for the young women committed to the baby girl life. If you learn to do the hard things become easy. If you don't learn to do the hard things, even the easy things become hard. Let me say it one more time for those in the back, okay? If you learn to do the things that are difficult things become easy. If you don't learn to do the things that are difficult, even the easy things become difficult. Let that sink in. Vanessa peeled back the layers of her life, making all kinds of connections in every aspect. Her attitude to money, to men, to love, to work, everything. I was just there smoking shisha, listening, and the whole time I was thinking to myself, look at my girl growing up right before my very eyes. I told her, this is what it's all about. This is how you become a god. This is wisdom. This is wokeness. This is woman. What she realized essentially is that her dopeness, her true form, the best version of herself, was buried beneath layers and layers of bullshit she had internalized throughout her life. And for the first time, she was awake. This is really what it means to be woke, people. Not the sanctimonious, virtue signaling, politically correct bullshit that's out there. It's realizing the actual truths that's in here. It's connecting with the humanity that is in you and in everyone else. When she left her house that fateful night to catch cruise in London town, her only fear was that COVID might kill her. Little did she know that the truth would be her killer. Oh my God. See flow, see wordplay, my goodness. I am in the spirit. Today, Vanessa is on that noble journey of digging deeper into herself and reevaluating everything. It's a beautiful process to witness, to behold, at least from the outside, but it's a painful process for her, for the person doing the actual work. Because old habits die hard. She tells me how frustrating it is having to grow up emotionally and mentally. She even started listening to this podcast low-key. She didn't even mention it until I said something that triggered her in one of those relationship episodes. Speaking of relationships, she's currently talking to this amazing guy and she's having to bring her best self so as to not fuck it up. And it's working out. She's seeing the results of her efforts. That's the motherfucking shit. I'm just in awe of her commitment to not be mediocre. Because she didn't have to change. She didn't have to go through all of this. Baby girl life suits her. She was set. Everything was comfortable. But wisdom, they say, is profitable to direct. The bulk of 2020 was spent in lockdown, so she had ample time and space to sit with herself and face her demons. That was the gift that 2020 gave most of us. Some didn't get the memo and decided to take the year off, while others were busy killing their ego and birthing their salvation. And to think that it all started from a happy accident. She went to a party which she would decline attending on an ordinary day, smoked some weed, talked to some strangers, and now her life is in a totally new direction. That's God. That's the grace of God. Also, don't underestimate the power of marijuana that is smoked intentionally. Most of us smoke it to get a cheap high, but if you smoke it with intention, it can change your life for the better. But that's a story for another day. Honestly, kudos to Vanessa for having the courage to look when the mirror was held up to her. She deserves a lot of credit for that. Most people get defensive, take it personal, and start cutting people off like Kilishi. Most people can't handle that sort of attack. Her honesty with herself was legendary that night. I grew to respect her even more, and I think she grew to understand me and my message even more too, because she watches my story and she knows what I'm about, but for the first time, she truly understands what being a god means to me and what it's all about. Indeed, some things must be experienced to be understood. That journey from young womanhood to god womanhood is a tricky one, I have to say. For a man, the journey is pretty straightforward, but for women, it's rife with a lot of rock bottoms, especially because women are chaotic creatures. And again, I mean chaos in the best possible way. I explained the connection between chaos and femininity in great detail in the Order versus Chaos episode, so do give it a listen to get up to speed. Women are chaotic creatures, which means their journey to God level is non-linear, unpredictable. It can take many forms, many obstacles, and many years, especially considering the fact that society really does everything it can to strip women of their power, so they have to work 10 times harder to realize themselves. Women start below zero, minus 100. It's criminal what women have to go through to find themselves in this world, but it is what it is. We must all carry our cross in it. And there you have it. We have come to the end of what I think is the most intense month in my podcasting journey. A fitting end to this legendary Women's Month. You know, it's difficult to talk about women's issues as a man in this sensitive world that we live in. Naturally, women are very touchy about a man adding his unsolicited 2 cents into their issues. But here I am, bringing the entire bank. The audacity, the effrontery, the testicular fortitude. Only a god would dare. I just really hope I did the old justice, because the anxiety I suffered putting all of this together just to make sure every point I made came from a good place. Y'all won't understand. You just won't get it, but it's cool. I'm calm. And how poetic is it that the episodes that would make me sweat had to do with women? It just had to be about women. I told you, me and women, we have a special relationship. Y'all stay bringing out the best in me. They don't call me a deep woke womanizer for nothing. Lest I forget, I want to thank Vanessa, my girl Vanessa, for finding me worthy of her story and her trust, for being my muse, for giving me the gift of validation. I hope I did you justice. I swear. I hope I honored your process and your journey. I hope sharing your story gives you more courage to go further. I hope it gives the women listening the courage to face themselves and put wild things behind when the time comes. I also want to thank my girl, Comfort, for voicing Vanessa with such accuracy and urgency. I was going to do it myself, but I wanted to add a level of authenticity to that part. I didn't want to take the easy way out on that one. Y'all deserve the best of me every time you tune in. So Vanessa, Comfort, I owe you 100 favors. That said, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, do check out other episodes from the past month to see how it all comes together full circle. As I said, the month of March is a special one in the Young God history. And as always, you're encouraged to donate to the Young God cause. There's a donation link in the description of this episode and everywhere else. Do support this passion project with both your feedback and your funds. It means the most to me, and you have my sincerest appreciation. If you haven't done so yet, do subscribe to the podcast, talk about it on social media, start the conversation, let the people know the magic that is brewing on this platform. Okay? Slide in my DMs and let me know how you feel about this episode. I'm on IG at The Young God Pod and Twitter at The Young God. I respond to everything. Do follow both pages and you will have access to exclusive content. And don't forget to tune in next weekend for the season finale, because I take it there. We are ending on a high. My name is Rodney Omokachi and this is The Young God.